Meanwhile, the Justice Department arrested and charged 18 people with federal crimes for their roles in this week's protests. And we're getting an inside look at the damage outside of the federal courthouse after another night of demonstrations. Fox 12's Sarah HURWITZ joins us live with that tour and what U.S. attorneys are saying about the continued violence in downtown Portland. Sarah?
Well, yeah, one of those U.S. attorneys says that it is hard to see this in Portland night after night. He took one of our crews inside the fence barrier to get a look at some of the damage and to see what's left over after another night of violence.
This is it every day. This is what the law officers face every day, and it doesn't start until about midnight. This is what happens every night at midnight.
First Assistant U.S. Attorney Scott Ospaug took Fox 12 behind the fence to see what's left over after another night of protests outside the federal courthouse.
Here's an example of what is being thrown at officers.
Trash tossed over the fence to start a bonfire and heavy objects that he says were thrown at officers.
I'm heartbroken when I come in and see this. I've worked here. This building represents justice for everybody that's here. Every month we've got immigrants who come to become citizens here. The lawsuits that are going to be filed by the people out here saying their rights are being violated, those are going to be heard in this building. And it's now just a target.
The U.S. Attorney's Office announced Friday it's prosecuting 18 people on federal charges, including arson, destruction of federal property, and assaulting federal officers. Those 18 will face those charges in federal court.
It's an institution that the anarchists want to destroy, and we're not going anywhere.
But some argue that protesters are targeting the building because they feel there's too much racial injustice in our country. But Ospaug says the nightly violence is taking away from the message of others.
The protesters who were here last night, they were here to talk about racial injustice and social injustice and Black Lives Matter. That's the conversation I wish we were having in this community. Instead, every morning, the headline is federal agents, tear gas, and rioters. We should be having the conversation about social and racial injustice in this country, not this.
And that U.S. attorney that you heard from there also responded to questions about violence and tension getting worse here in Portland since the appearance of those federal agents. He says what he sees are that federal agents are responding to things that are being thrown at them, responding to damage that's being done at the building at the federal courthouse here. Reporting live in downtown Portland, Sarah HURWITZ, Fox 12 Oregon.